Creation of the Union of India. At the time of independence, as many as 562 princely states existed throughout India, each having its own ruler, flag, currency and army. After partition, these princely states were given the choice of joining either India or Pakistan. All the princely states except Junagadh, Kashmir and Hyderabad acceded to India. Let us see how these states too ultimately became a part of the Indian Union. Junagadh. The Nawab of Junagadh, a small state on the coast of Kathiawar, Gujarat, wanted to join Pakistan. In February 1948, the people voted in favor of joining India. The Nawab fled to Pakistan and the state acceded to the Indian Union. Hyderabad. Hyderabad was one of the largest princely states of India because of increasing lawlessness in the Nizam's territories. In September 1948, Indian troops entered Sikandrabad and the Nizam surrendered. Later, Hyderabad acceded to India. Kashmir. Unlike Hyderabad and Junagadh, the ruler of Kashmir was a Hindu, Maharaja Hari Singh, ruling over a Muslim majority. Maharaja Hari Singh delayed the accession of the state as he had secret plans of remaining independent. At this time, Kashmir was invaded by tribal people from Pakistan. Hari Singh appealed to India for help and in return he agreed to join India with special concessions. Pakistan and some people in Kashmir felt cheated and a war broke out between the two countries. In 1948, the United Nations truce froze the battle line as the line of actual control between India and Pakistan. Independence of French and Portuguese colonies. In 1948 to 49, the French administration at Mahe and Chandenagore surrendered. In 1954, the governments of India and France entered into an agreement under which the French rule in all the territories came to an end. In the same year, Dadra and Nagar Haveli were liberated from the Portuguese. The Indian Army moved to Goa in December 1961 and expelled the Portuguese. With this, the whole of India became independent and united. Partition and the rehabilitation of refugees. Soon after the declaration of partition, India and Pakistan saw the worst ever communal riots. As a result, millions of people on both sides of the border were forced to leave their homes. As many as 8.5 million people migrated to India. To provide them with immediate relief, shelter and employment, a rehabilitation ministry was created. New townships and colonies were developed to resettle them. As financial help, loans were given by state governments for starting business and industries. Gradually, the displaced people were assimilated into the mainstream of society. Democracy and development. At the time of independence, people of India were divided into castes, religions, classes and languages. So the political leadership faced an uphill task of forging them together into a single nation state. While keeping intact the essential spirit of pluralism, the leaders were also supposed to promote unity and fulfill the expectations of the people, particularly their economic aspirations. The greatest challenge facing India in 1947 was that of development. For a vast majority of people living in villages, agriculture was the main source of income, which in turn was completely dependent on the monsoons. Another problem was that large parts of arable and irrigated tracts of land had gone to Pakistan. In urban centers, factory workers lived in crowded slums without health care and educational facilities. In order to tackle all these problems effectively, the country needed a set of guidelines and regulations which would be instrumental in achieving the goal of all-round development while keeping intact the spirit of pluralism and democracy. Due to that, the need for a new constitution for the country became indispensable. Let us now discuss some of the unique features of the Constitution of India and how this document enshrines the values of modern and contemporary India. Parliamentary democracy based on universal adult franchise. The Constitution of India adopted the parliamentary system of government based on the concept of universal adult franchise. According to this, all Indians above the age of 21 would be allowed to vote in state and national elections. India was the first country to grant this right to vote to all its citizens, regardless of gender, class, or education, or property rights. Federal form of government. The Constituent Assembly agreed that a federal form of government, that is, having two or more than two levels of government in order to take democracy down to the lowest level, would be the best for India. These two levels of government were to be the central level and the state level. The Constituent Assembly distributed the powers between the two levels of government through the union, state and concurrent lists. Equal opportunity for all. The Indian Constitution guarantees to all its citizens the rights of equality before law and equality of opportunity. The state would not discriminate against any citizen on grounds of religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. It acknowledges the existence of the poor and the marginalized and seeks to ameliorate their condition by including special privileges for them. The practice of untouchability was abolished and its practice in any form was forbidden. Some sections of the Indian society, such as Harijans and the Adivasis, have been accorded some special privileges to bring them into the social mainstream. A certain percentage of seats in educational institutions, in legislature, and as well as in jobs in the government has also been reserved for them. Panchayati Raj and governance at the grassroots. One of the directive principles of our constitution set the formation of panchayats as one of the goals of government. A law has been passed to make panchayats in rural areas compulsory. These local self-government bodies have taken democracy to grassroots level. Multilingualism and reorganization of states. After independence, most of the leaders of the Indian National Congress were not in favor of creating states on the basis of language. They felt that India had already been divided once on the basis of religion and so could not afford further divisions on linguistic lines. It disappointed many sections of people. They expressed their disappointment in the form of protest, marches, or hunger strikes or bandhs. In 1952, a veteran Gandhian, Potti Sriramulu, demanding the formation of Andhra state to protect the interests of Telugu speakers, died on the 58th day of his fast. Soon, the central government was forced to create the new state of Andhra Pradesh on the 1st October 1953. To find out the possibility of creating more states on linguistic basis, the central government formed a state reorganization committee in 1953 under Fazal Ali. The committee completed its work in 1955 and according to the recommendations, the whole of India was divided into 14 states and 6 union territories on the basis of language. Provincial boundaries were redrawn to accommodate various language speakers. Since then, as and when the need has arisen, changes have been made in state boundaries from time to time. In 1960, a bilingual state, Bombay, was divided into 2 states, Maharashtra and Gujarat for Marathi and Gujarati speakers. In 1966, Punjab was divided into Punjab and Haryana for the Punjabi speakers and others who spoke various versions of Haryanvi. The last 3 states to be carved out within the Indian Union were Uttarakhand, Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. At present, there are 28 states and 7 union territories. National and regional languages. Hindi has been adopted as the national language of India. For the non-Hindi speaking population of the South, English has been adopted as the language of communication for official purposes like in the courts, in communications between one state and another, etc. Following the formation of linguistic states in India, regional languages have also been recognized. So far, 22 languages have been accepted as official regional languages of India. Equitable economic development. Independence posed a challenge of lifting India and Indians out of poverty and of building a new social order in which the benefits of freedom, especially the economic benefits, would be assured to all. It also posed a challenge of building a modern technical and industrial base to alleviate poverty and ensure economic freedom for all. To tackle these challenges, the Constituent Assembly decided to go for mixed economy system, where both the state and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. The government set up the Planning Commission in 1950 for the formulation and execution of policies that would ensure planned economic development. The Commission decided to carry out its work by adopting 5-year plans in 1951. Since these plans determined the goals for 5 years, they came to be known as 5-year plans. So far, 11 5-year plans have been carried out successfully, and the 12th plan is in progress. Independent foreign policy. After independence, India adopted a unique foreign policy based on the principles of its own independence and sovereignty and of peaceful coexistence with other countries. India respects the sovereignty and independence of all countries. It strongly opposes those countries where the government discriminates between people on the basis of color, race or class. For example, India opposed the practice of apartheid in South Africa. India also believes that all international disputes can be solved by peaceful means. Panchsheel, or the 5 principles of friendship between India and China. The 5 principles of peaceful coexistence, or Panchsheel, are a series of principles which were to form the bedrock of the relationship between India and the People's Republic of China. They were outlined in 1954 within the context of decolonization to ensure that newly independent nations could coexist peacefully. That is, they would not have the same aggressive relationship they once had with colonizers. The 5 principles were called the Panchsheel. They were mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality and mutual benefit, peaceful coexistence. Subsequently, Panchsheel formed the basis of the non-aligned movement as laid down by Jawaharlal Nehru. It was also expanded and adopted by the Asian African Conference at Bandung in Indonesia. The non-aligned movement. After the Second World War, the major countries of the world were divided into 2 groups or power blocks. The group led by the USA was called the Western Bloc, while the second group led by the former USSR was called the Eastern Bloc. The 1950s and 1960s saw the emergence of a bitter Cold War between these 2 blocs. In addition, numerous military pacts and alliances also divided the people of different countries. This was also the period when old colonial empires were collapsing and many countries were attaining independence. While some countries threw in their lot with either the Eastern or the Western blocs, there were many newly independent countries like India who did not want to join any of the 2 power blocs. It was at this backdrop that the non-aligned movement, NAM, came into existence. The founding fathers of NAM were Jawaharlal Nehru, President Tito of Yugoslavia, and President Nasser of Egypt. The NAM urged the countries not to join either of the 2 major alliances and remain neutral. Initially, NAM had 25 countries as its members, but at present more than 100 countries are its members. The first summit of NAM was held in 1961 at Belgrade, India, and the UN peacekeeping. India has been fully committed to assisting the UN in maintaining international peace and security. So far, it has contributed about 1 lakh troops for the UN peacekeeping operations in over 40 countries. India has also contributed remarkably to the demining work during various peacekeeping missions. South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC. India has played a major role in the establishment and functioning of the Regional Forum, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, SAARC. It came into existence in 1985 at Dhaka with the objective to promote peace and socio-economic cooperation among the 8 countries of South Asia: India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bhutan, Nepal, Maldives and Afghanistan. India after 60 years of independence. India is the biggest democracy in the world. Our great regard for democratic values has been affirmed through various general elections to the Lok Sabha and hundreds of state and local elections. In 1991, the Indian economy was restructured by the adoption of a new economic policy, the main aim of which was to liberalize the economy and upgrade technology of production in various fields. It also aimed at regulating the domestic market to weed out imbalances. Today, India is the second fastest growing major economy in the world with a GDP growth rate of 9.4% for the fiscal year 2006 to 2007. It is making great progress in the fields of information and technology, space and nuclear technology, and human resource development. In 1974, India conducted her first nuclear test at Pokhran. It was termed as a peaceful nuclear explosion. Subsequently, in March 1998, 5 more nuclear tests were conducted at Pokhran, termed Operation Shakti. The Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, built India's first satellite, Aryabhatta. It was launched by the Soviet Union on 19 April 1975. ISRO has also launched a series of multi-purpose geostationary satellites called INSAT, or the Indian National Satellite System. They cater to the telecommunication, broadcasting and meteorology sectors. India has set an example for the less advanced countries that are trying to make progress. However, there is an enormous gulf between the rich and the poor. Unemployment remains a serious problem. Our educational system suffers from various defects and shortcomings. Literacy standards are still dismal. Housing facilities are unavailable to millions in India. Despite constitutional provisions which declare the practice of untouchability illegal and punishable under law, the Dalits still face discrimination. Gender inequality, casteism and communalism are some of the major challenges which India faces. We need to concentrate on these areas. India after 60 years of independence. India is the biggest democracy in the world. Our great regard for democratic values has been affirmed through various general elections to the Lok Sabha and hundreds of state and local elections. In 1991, the Indian economy was restructured by the adoption of a new economic policy, the main aim of which was to liberalize the economy and upgrade technology of production in various fields. It also aimed at regulating the domestic market to weed out imbalances. Today, India is the second fastest growing major economy in the world with a GDP growth rate of 9.4% for the fiscal year 2006 to 2007. It is making great progress in the fields of information and technology, space and nuclear technology, and human resource development. In 1974, India conducted her first nuclear test at Pokhran. It was termed as a peaceful nuclear explosion. Subsequently, in March 1998, 5 more nuclear tests were conducted at Pokhran, termed Operation Shakti. The Indian Space Research Organisation, ISRO, built India's first satellite, Aryabhatta. It was launched by the Soviet Union on 19 April 1975. ISRO has also launched a series of multi-purpose geostationary satellites called INSAT, or the Indian National Satellite System. They cater to the telecommunication, broadcasting and meteorology sectors. India has set an example for the less advanced countries that are trying to make progress. However, there is an enormous gulf between the rich and the poor. Unemployment remains a serious problem. Our educational system suffers from various defects and shortcomings. literacy standards are still dismal. Housing facilities are unavailable to millions in India. Despite constitutional provisions which declare the practice of untouchability illegal and punishable under law, the Dalits still face discrimination. Gender inequality, casteism and communalism are some of the major challenges which India faces. We need to concentrate on these areas.